Prime Minister heads overseas again, while his public safety minister remains under the heat lamps in Ottawa. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Deeper than the headlines.
The answers you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It's wheels up again for Prime Minister Mark Carney. Mr. Carney arrived back in Ottawa from New York yesterday, just in time for question period in the House of Commons. But he's not sticking around for long. In about an hour from now, he'll be leaving for the UK. Mr. Carney's been racking up the air miles. Since becoming Prime Minister last March, he's been to France, the UK, the United States, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, Ukraine, Poland, Latvia, Germany, and Mexico, and there are more trips scheduled. Prime Minister's office says this three-day trip is about strengthening and diversifying Canada's international partnerships and building economic strength and resiliency in the face of a rapidly changing global landscape. But that doesn't mean the landscape at home is doing the Liberals any favors. For 3 solid days, the Liberals have been getting hammered by the Conservatives over their gun buyback program. That was sparked after the Public Safety Minister, Gary Anandasangari, was caught on tape doubting the merits of the program and admitting it's only going ahead because it's popular in Quebec. Prime Minister Carney's been trying his best to defend his minister and the program amid a non-stop barrage from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
The gun registry, what the government is doing with the gun registry is putting in place a much more efficient way, an efficient way for Canadians to voluntarily return prohibited firearms, for fair compensation. This government is going to do it right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
But his own Minister of Public Safety says this government is doing it wrong. He was caught on tape saying the program won't work, and yet they are going to rip $750 million away from our border and police services to harass duck hunters and farmers by banning the firearms they use. This approach has led to a 130% increase in gun crime under the Liberals' watch. The police say they won't implement it. The minister says it's a bad idea, but they're only doing it for political reasons. Why is the Prime Minister putting lives at risk for politics?
At one point during yesterday's back and forth in the House of Commons, the Prime Minister claimed duck hunters are using AR-15s, while Poilievre claimed the government is going after gopher guns.
Farmers, duck hunters using AR-15s to hunt. I don't see that. I don't see that in my great province of Alberta. I also know that what the Minister of Public Safety and this government are doing is tightening the border. Bill C-2, will the opposition stand up and support the tightening of the border?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And there, the Prime Minister just admitted that he doesn't even know what his gun ban applies to.
That's right.
For example, this gun ban applies to 10 and 12 gauge shotguns, which are used by the great people of Alberta and all Canadians for duck hunting. It applies to 70 .22 caliber firearms that are used by almost every farmer to go after gophers. Will the Prime Minister stop wasting money banning gopher guns, read his briefing notes so that he knows what he's talking about, and fire that incompetent minister?
The leaked tape of the public safety minister has been a huge headache for the government this week, not just for Gary Anandasangari or Prime Minister Carney, but also for other Liberal MPs who are being cornered by members of the press gallery and asked if they have confidence in the minister and about the merits of this $740 million gun buyback program. Nova Scotia's Sean Fraser is the Minister of Justice.
Do you think that the Minister of Public Safety can keep his role?
Look, I'm willing to work with my colleague to make sure that we execute on the campaign commitment when it comes to the gun buyback. Look, I'm going to always ensure that the Prime Minister has the authority to determine who's in which role. But my experience with Minister Anandasangari is that he is a professional who cares deeply about the country, and I value his partnership.
Steve McKinnon is a Liberal MP from the National Capital Region. He's also the government's House Leader.
Should the public safety minister keep his job?
Gary Anandasangri is an incredibly committed public servant. He's carrying some very big files, and one that was announced yesterday. He's been answering all the questions. Mr. Anandasangri is doing a good job.
Maninder Sidhu is a Liberal MP from the Brampton area, and he's Canada's Minister of International Trade.
Should the public safety minister stay in his role?
Look, I have confidence in the public safety minister and the programs that we're rolling out. This is what Canadians asked us to do. They voted for this, and we need to get the programs out.
So should he stay in his role?
I have full confidence in him, and he should be doing what the Prime Minister asked him to do, is to roll out this program, and that's exactly what he's doing. The announcement yesterday was this, and I think Canadians expect us to do it. But thank you so much.
James Maloney is a Liberal MP from Etobicoke. He sounded like he'd rather be asked about anything else other than Gary Anandasangri and this gun buyback program.
You had lots of opportunity to ask him questions yesterday, and I thought he answered them. I don't know what more I can add.
Do you think he was to be disloyal about it?
No, I think Gary's incredibly loyal. I think he's doing a great job. He believes in the program, so do I, which is why I was standing with him yesterday.
But how can you say he believes in the program? He didn't seem to defend it in that reporting.
You've heard him defend it. I've heard him defend it. I've talked to him privately. He believes in the program. I don't know what more I can say.
Polytechnic survivors, has that cast doubt on the government's seriousness about this program?
Well, the fact that we're moving ahead with it, I would suggest, leads to a different conclusion, and that's why we are doing it. So, I mean, it's an important program. Gary is firmly committed to it, as are we. So, I'm not sure much more I could say about it.
It's probably not going to be an easy day for the government today. The interim parliamentary budget officer is releasing a report on the government's finances ahead of the federal budget, a budget that is expected to contain a massive deficit. And the PBO will be taking questions from opposition MPs on that reporting committee later this afternoon. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
There's a lot more happening in Canadian politics these days than Carney, Poilievre, and a gun buyback program. For example, the NDP is looking for a new leader. Recall Jagmeet Singh resigned as the NDP leader after this spring's federal election that saw Singh lose in his own riding in Burnaby. There was a campaign launch yesterday by a well-known NDP activist, Avi Lewis. Lewis has deep ties to the NDP. His grandfather helped create the federal NDP, and his father was the leader of the NDP in Ontario. Avi Lewis launched his leadership campaign at an event in Toronto last night.
On April 28th, Canadians turned away from the NDP to elect Mark Carney as our protector, to defend us from senseless economic attack coming from a U.S. government sliding into authoritarianism. And yet, Canadians are much worse off today. In the name of protecting the country, the government is rapidly passing and proposing legislation that will change the culture and character of Canada. From sweeping aside Indigenous rights and environmental protections for so-called nation-building projects, to rolling back higher taxes on the uber-wealthy and the digital giants, to the generational austerity of 15% cuts to public spending, to the $9 billion that materialized in an instant for the military this year, ramping up to $150 billion a year a decade from now. These changes are extreme, and we will reject them.
Avi Lewis has run twice for the NDP, both times in Vancouver. He lost both times. Meanwhile, for the first time ever, a Canadian government has a Minister of Artificial Intelligence. He is Evan Solomon, the former broadcaster. And this week, Solomon was attending a massive AI trade show in Montreal, where he announced there would be a task force to come up with a new government strategy for AI in Canada.
We've given them 30 days to add to our collective consultation process that we've done with many others. And they're going to sprint on the 8 priorities you can see on the screen behind me. So everything from research, adoption, commercialization, safety, education, infrastructure. And they're going to deliver bold, practical ideas that move quickly from paper to practice. And in November, they'll report back to me. And later this year, almost 2 years ahead of schedule, we will table a refreshed national AI strategy, moving from principles to projects and ideas to impact. This is going to be our roadmap. It was supposed to be at the end of next year. Can't afford to wait.
But there are questions about what that might mean for the delivery of public services and potential job losses in the public service. Solomon says the public service is part of the plan.
We are giving our employees and the public servants the tools they want and that they need to do the job better. Look, the public service is a partner in all of this. The public service's mandate is to serve Canadians better. For example, renewing passports. There's a program that will roll out soon to help, for example, renew passports on a faster way. And that's part of technology. So what does it mean? It means exactly what we hope it means. It means serving Canadians better, and the public service is a partner with that, and we're working very closely with them on that.
Now, also this week, in the House of Commons, the Liberals' proposed emissions cap for the oil and gas sector was up for a vote. It was an opposition motion from the Conservatives, not a bill, so whatever happened, it would have not been binding on the government. But the Conservatives wanted the Liberals to end this proposed emissions cap. That failed. Andrew Scheer is the House leader for the official opposition.
Mark Carney has decided to keep the failed Liberal policy that chased away billions of dollars of investment in the Canadian energy sector. The Parliamentary Budget Officer, the independent budget watchdog, estimates that this policy will cost the Canadian economy $20 billion in lost GDP. There's an announcement this week. TC Energy, used to be called TransCanada Energy, investing $8.5 billion in the energy sector in the United States. Keeping this production cap in place will mean more stories like TC Energy, Canadian companies taking investment dollars out of Canada, investing in the United States. It also will mean lost jobs. At a time when employment is going up, as young people struggle to find work, this production cap will kill thousands of opportunities for young men and women going into the skilled trades.
The Bloc Québécois was also on the losing end of a vote this week about the government's plan to argue at the Supreme Court of Canada that the High Court place limits on the province's ability to use the notwithstanding clause in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That is viewed as offside in Quebec. The Quebec government has used the notwithstanding clause more often than any other provincial government, and it is totally opposed to the federal government limiting Quebec's ability to do so. Speaking through a translator, this was Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchette.
Mr. Speaker, there's also a constitution. It was imposed on us and includes the notwithstanding clause, which we have the right to invoke. The government is opposed to the clause, and they have also leveled incredibly insulting criticisms at Quebec and at other Canadian provinces. Will the Prime Minister do the only decent thing, which would be to withdraw the factum and to apologize to Quebecers?
The Bloc had a motion to that effect on the floor. It failed, but it was a close vote. The Liberals and the NDP voted the Bloc motion down, but the Conservatives supported the Bloc Québécois on the use of the notwithstanding clause. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Well, if you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, we have a great new mobile app that can help you hear our show when you want to. You can listen live. You can listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R, and it has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R, And Now You Know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. I fell asleep watching the Jays game last night. Turned out to be a good thing. I didn't really miss much. I made it, I think, to about the fourth or fifth inning. The game against the Boston Red Sox was over after the first inning. The Jays fell behind 3-0 in the first inning again. Max Scherzer was on the mound again. 3 runs on 5 hits in the first inning. So Scherzer, after that, he didn't play too bad once he settled down. But once again, just no offense from the Blue Jays. The bats fell silent. They didn't score a run until the bottom of the 9th, at which point the game was just over. A final score 7-1 last night. And that means that for the first time since early July, the Toronto Blue Jays are not alone atop the standings of the American League East. That's because the New York Yankees made easy work of the last place Chicago White Sox, 8-1. So that means the Yankees and the Jays are now tied for first place in the American League East, although the Jays hold the advantage with the tiebreaker. But my gosh, there's just no other way to say it. The Jays stink right now. 4-6 in their last 10, but that doesn't even tell the whole story. They've dropped 6 of their last 7, and in 5 of their last 7 games, Blue Jays have scored 1 run or fewer. So while playoff tickets go on sale today in Toronto, it's all still up in the air who the Blue Jays will play in the postseason. They can still win the division outright and get a bye into the divisional round. They're guaranteed a wild card spot, but there's actually no guarantee they would have home field advantage at this point. Meanwhile, you have the Yankees. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games, and they have another game against those lowly Chicago White Sox. The Jays and Red Sox will close out this 3-game series in Toronto tonight. Louis Varland on the mound. It's being called a bullpen day because the club wants to rest some of the starters for the playoffs starting next week. But game time in Toronto is 7:07 Eastern, and you can watch all the Blue Jays action on Sportsnet. You can listen to the Jays games on the radio at 95.7 News Radio in Halifax, 570 News Radio in Kitchener, and Sportsnet 960 The Fan in Calgary. Coming up, it is our Thursday Newsday political panel, and there's a lot to talk about today with Prime Minister Carney traveling again off to London, off to the UK for the second time. Certainly been a rough week for the government because of the gun buyback program and the leaked recording of the public safety minister. And today we have a PBO report, Parliamentary Budget Office report, on the government's fiscal outlook. Massive, massive deficit. I'm Rob Snow. That's coming up right after the latest breaking news. This is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
It's time for our Thursday Newsday political panel. Deirdra Tindale is Vice President at Crestview Strategy. Welcome back, Deirdra. Great to hear from you today.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
And Melissa Caoutte is Principal at MC Consulting and founder of Pocket Lobbyist. How are you, Melissa?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
It's great to hear from you. Deirdra, I just have to ask you, were you in Ottawa last night?
I was not. Many of my colleagues were, but not me this time around.
Right. Last night was like a big night in Ottawa. This is like an annual thing. It was the Politics in the Pen Gala, which is an annual black tie event, and it's where all the political people go and people who want to be around political people go, and it's black tie, and it's very fancy. And they give out the Shaughnessy Cohen Prize for political writing, and I should say congratulations to Raymond B. Blake, who took that prize, $40,000 prize, for Canada's prime ministers and the shaping of the national identity. But I only mention this, Deirdre, because I was reading the Ottawa Playbook this morning, and it said that quote, Crestview hosted an unofficial post-gala bash at the Chateau Lafayette, a few blocks from the Chateau Laurier. And in parenthesis, it says, not typical tuxedo and gown territory. Now, I have been to the Laugh many, many times, have had many, many pints at the Laugh. That is not a typical, shall I say, political haunt. You don't see a lot of political people there.
Well, Crestview likes to be original, so...
Okay, they apparently shut down the place. Quote, revelers closed the bar shortly after 2 a.m. So I'm glad you're here with us today, Deirdra, and well-rested. Let's get into the political talk of the day. Prime Minister Carney, I want to ask you about this. He spent a few days in New York. He's at the United Nations General Assembly. Then he comes back to Ottawa. He attends question period. And in 25 minutes from now, his jet leaves Ottawa and he goes to the UK again. He has been to France, the UK, the US, Italy, Vatican City, Belgium, the Netherlands, Poland, Ukraine, Latvia, Germany, and Mexico. More trips expected this fall. Deirdre, does Mark Carney travel too much? What would you say?
I would ask him, what's wrong with Canada? I mean, look, we know that the Prime Minister travels. Relationships are obviously important. But I think the question around these trips is always, what are Canadians getting out of it, right? What is the average Canadian going to get, and how is it helping their bottom line? But more than that, you know, there has been suggestions that Mr. Carney views Parliament as a bit of a bother, that he would rather just run the government the way he did corporations. And so I think the fact that he's spending as little time as possible in Parliament is also sending a message.
Yeah, it's not just in Parliament, it's in the country. And I would remind people, there was a story last month, maybe a little longer than that, that it took him a long time to even set up a constituency office in his riding of Nepean, which is, you know, basic member of Parliament stuff. So it just makes you wonder, how seriously is he taking, you know, issues in Canada and issues in his own riding. What do you think, Melissa? Mark Carney, world traveler, but is he traveling too much? What do you think?
Well, let's be real. If you're the Prime Minister, that's definitely the most fun part of the job. So I'd agree with Deirdre in respect of international trips are obviously exciting and a whirlwind and the part of the job that I think a lot of people think that being Prime Minister involves, and it definitely does. It is the responsibility of the Prime Minister to represent Canada internationally, especially with respect to the way that Carney has decided that he wants to position Canada with having closer relationships with Europe, with expanding our diplomatic ties that could lead to economic ties. So I do understand his mentality for wanting to do that. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I do think that the Liberals were reelected on a sort of expectation of change and being able to address issues that are primarily economic and public safety. And those are issues that require the leader of our government to be present and to be engaged. And as with any leadership, even though being the Prime Minister and being in politics has a different level of parliament, like Deirdre has mentioned, there are similarities with the private sector in that if your country or your business has problems, the leader does need to be present to make sure those problems are solved, or you need to have a certain level of confidence that you have strong bench strength that can handle those issues. And there are a few new ministers and Liberal MPs that I think are promising, including Tim Hodgson and others. But I think that's really the question to pose to Canadians is, when Carney's not here, are there responsible and strong leaders to fill his place? And I don't know that we've seen that yet.
For example, when I take phone calls from listeners, and I do that every day for 2 hours from people all across the country, a common frustration that I hear, and they used to say it about Trudeau, and they're saying it again about Mr. Carney, is there's not enough focus on Canadians and Canada's problems. Spending too much money overseas, making announcements overseas, too much travel overseas, not enough attention being paid to things like pocketbook issues, cost of living, housing. I would also include crime. Anything to that, do you think, Deirdre?
I think that's exactly it, right? It's the question on everyone's lips. What are we getting from this, and how is this actually helping us? And unfortunately, it plays into the image of Mr. Carney that was being projected by other parties during the Liberal leadership race and during the election campaign. And that is, he is one of these World Economic Forum elites. He likes to go and have his photo taken with other world leaders, with other
global
important people.
technocrat, right?
Right.
Global technocrat.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's inadvertently feeding into that image that I'm sure the Liberal Party would rather him stay away from.
What do you think about that, Melissa?
I don't know. It's tough to say. Like, I do think that there are still, even though Canada and the political opinions have evolved and changed even in the last 5 years since 2020, I do think there's still a pretty significant part of the population, particularly when it comes to urban areas in Ontario, Quebec, or British Columbia, where that is not seen as a bad thing. I think that in conservative circles and in certain communities across the country, people are a little bit tired of that, but I don't actually think that that is a bad thing. And I think if you're Mark Carney and you genuinely believe that is the morally superior way to be perceived, maybe he doesn't have a problem with that, because maybe he thinks that that's what he should seem like, because that's the superior way to think. So it's tough to say.
Okay. We'll be right back, and we'll talk about Gary Anand Sangari's really bad week. And it's not over yet. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
With our political panel, Deirdra Tindale, Vice President, Crestview Strategy. Melissa Caoutte is principal at MC Consulting, founder of Pocket Lobbyist. Rough week for the government because of the gun buyback program and the leaked recording of Gary Anand Sangari, the minister in charge of the gun buyback program. Gary Anand Sangari caught on tape. You never want to hear that when you're in politics. Oh my gosh, I've been caught on tape. He questioned the value of the program and suggests it's only being done because it's popular in Quebec. Melissa, why do you think the Prime Minister is defending his public safety minister and this program?
I think that over the past 5 years, as we've seen the Liberal gun buyback program roll out in various iterations and states, we have seen one thing for sure, and for consistency's purposes between the previous Trudeau government and the current Carney government, is that they are not governments that understand this policy issue or care about this policy issue in the same way that others do. And I think that part of that is because they think it's silly, and they like the political win that they get from being seen as being tough on firearms. I think that over the past few years, that's not to say that we don't have a public safety issue in this country and that there are not problems associated with firearms, but I'm just mostly pointing to the fact that the policy that the Liberals have pursued under the Trudeau government and now continuing under the Carney government are more about virtue signaling than they are about public safety. And you see that in the comments that the minister made with respect to his hesitation on whether or not local police would be able to actually even enforce this. So I think that they use this as a way to wedge, as they do other very contentious political issues, and it causes problems because people look to the challenges that are happening in the United States, whatever side of this issue that you're on, and they see them as being present in Canada, even though it's very different in Canada than it is the United States.
Right. So it's not about the value of the program, it's about the value of the issue as a wedge issue to wedge conservatives. Okay, that's great analysis. Okay, Deirdre, what do you think?
Well, I suspect the reason the Prime Minister is defending this policy is, one, he can't simply walk back every Trudeau-era policy that the Liberals announced. So that's why I suspect they found this Nova Scotia pilot project as a way to test whether or not they can do anything to salvage this program. But secondly, I suspect the Prime Minister, like most of us, has probably seen the headlines of crime increasing in this country, and he's probably seen the polls that would tell him that crime is a major issue for Canadians and that they want action on it. But, you know, sort of to Melissa's point, tough on crime has never been the Liberals' strong suit. And so this is them putting something in the window to say, hey, Canadians, we hear you. And look, we're going to persist with this gun buyback, even if as a country we probably can't afford it. And even if, despite our good relations with other prime ministers in other countries, namely Australia, UK, and New Zealand, who have all successfully rolled out gun buyback programs, we're not actually learning those lessons. We're just putting something in the window here.
Given the issues that have arisen with Mr. Ananda Sangri, this is not the first one. Do you expect him to be shuffled at some point, Melissa? What do you think?
I don't know. I think that I agree with Deirdre. You can't for every gaffe or every misstep say you're going to shuffle your cabinet, because that starts to look quite quickly like you don't have a cabinet that has strength. And so I do think that this minister in particular is a little bit weak on the portfolio that he's responsible for, given this issue and previous issues that he's had. And I think that Canadians are looking for, I think that the most concerning part of this is the minister himself having a lack of confidence in the public safety state capacity to actually implement things like this. So on one hand, to Deirdre's point, you're addressing public safety by keeping the program, but he also simultaneously admits in this exchange that was recorded that he doesn't actually have confidence in state capacity to implement it. So again, I think it's difficult to take that perspective seriously when you don't even have that belief yourself in the capacity.
Quick comment. What do you see ahead for Ananda Sangri and his future in this cabinet, Deirdre?
Well, we have to see another shuffle soon. Steve McKinnon can't continue to hold House leader and ministerial portfolios. So I think the minister will inevitably find another home, and that's whether it's Canada or some kind of diplomatic appointment, which seems to be the landing for former Liberal cabinet ministers these days. Okay. All right. Be right back. A few more things. We'll talk about the PBO report that's out today. You know, it's not super. I don't think it's terribly surprising, but it's something else for the government to expect questions about from the opposition on the size of the deficit and the fiscal projections for the country. Be right back. This is our Newsday panel on News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Here with Melissa Caoutte and Deirdra Tindale, Thursday Newsday political panel. So, I mean, here are the quick and fast numbers from the parliamentary budget officer today on Ottawa's finances, projecting an annual deficit $68.5 billion this year, up from $51.7 billion last year. And the PBO says with lower revenues and higher government spending, budget deficits will be $26.6 billion higher each year on average through to 2029-2030 than the projections in its March outlook. Okay, so those are the numbers. Here's the question, though, Deirdre. Do voters care? Do voters care about deficits?
Well, the Liberals have been using the words austerity and investment as synonyms recently. So I suspect they've been trying to test with the electorate whether or not they care. I think what's probably concerning to me is in that report where it talks about the key downside risk, it points to prolonged trade uncertainty. And we know that that's already having an impact. We're hearing of job layoffs and the like. To me, that comes back to Carney's credibility on the U.S. trade file. You know, he pitched himself as the man who would deliver the solution, who would deliver the deal, and he hasn't. And now Canadians are going to see that the government, though, is spending a lot of money on things. Those numbers don't include the NATO increase defense spending that has been announced. And those numbers don't include a lot of the things that were part of the Liberal campaign platform. So I think Canadians will put a question mark over the economic management that they're seeing or not seeing in Ottawa at the moment.
Okay. Because I recall, Melissa, in 2015, Justin Trudeau won an election promising to run deficits. And then he won 2 more elections and he was still running huge deficits. 10 years later, are things different now? What do you think, Melissa?
I think I would agree with Deirdre in terms of the public sort of sentiment. I think that the public doesn't care about deficits themselves, but I think the public will care about those deficits having an impact on operational spending, which we know from the Carney government we're likely to expect in maybe not budget 2025 on November 4th, but in the spring with budget 2026, where we're going to be expecting, 7 to 8% operational spending cuts. So I think that the idea of deficits may not bother Canadians that much because there hasn't really been direct consequences for those decisions, other than if you look at inflation, which has been a huge issue as well. But I don't think taxpayers have had the experience of noticing the immediate cause and effect of those decisions. But I do think if Carney is serious about his intention to balance the operational budget, then we are going to see impacts of decreased program spending. I know that they've committed to, not decreasing healthcare transfers and certain transfers to provinces, but I do think that we're going to see less government money flowing into the pockets of Canadians if they're serious about what they're saying, because there's no way that you can balance the operational budget and keep spending like you are. So I think that they'll feel the impact of deficit, but maybe that's why the idea of a deficit doesn't seem that concerning to Canadians at this point.
Okay. Great to hear from both of you today and to have your insight. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Melissa Caoutte is Principal MC Consulting, founder of Pocket Lobbyist. Deirdra Tindale, Vice President at Crestview Strategy. Deirdra works out of Montreal. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback is coming up. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Although today's topic is a little on the lighter side, something a little bit different. Not so serious. We're calling it moving stories. Moving stories. Here's what we want to know. Have you ever moved from one part of Canada to another part of Canada? And if you did, why did you move? Why did you move? Because a lot of people are on the move. Let me tell you, in this country, a lot of people are on the move. And we want to get a better idea of why people are moving. So if you've ever moved from one part of Canada to another part of Canada, we want to know your story. We want to know the story behind that. I love topics like this because people have interesting stories to tell. Why did you move? Was it for work? Was it for love? Was it because you could save some money by living somewhere else, somewhere more affordable? Why did you move? It is newsworthy because there's a report about this. It was released yesterday by StatsCan, big report about Canada's population, which, by the way, is about 41,600,000 these days. According to this latest report, increase of 47,000 or so since April. Most of that is because of what the government calls international migration. That accounted for about 70% of the growth in population. But overall, the growth numbers in the population were actually on the low side. Today, we're not talking about immigration. People coming from other countries to Canada. We're talking about, the technical term is interprovincial migration. We want to hear your moving stories. Packing the car up, hitting the road, and moving away from one part of the country to another part of the country. Because around 110,000 people did that just in the second quarter of this year. That's 1,200 people a day. Leaving it all behind trying something new somewhere else. And according to this report, where do you think people want to move most often? Where do you think people want to move most often? Well, if you guessed Alberta, you would be right on the money. Alberta. People love Alberta. Moving to Alberta. About 2,500 people moved from Nova Scotia to Alberta. 2,500 people saying farewell to Nova Scotia and saying hello to Wild Rose Country. More than 25,000 people left Ontario and moved to Alberta. Like 70 people a day, every day. Have to wonder, does the high cost of living in the big Ontario cities have anything to do with that? Is that a young people story too, I wonder? But some people also say goodbye to Alberta. And for those who did that, number one destination, British Columbia. Why is that? Is it because it's right next door? Very interesting data points. I was leafing through this report, playing with this report, lots of interesting graphs and everything in this report. For example, while more than 5,000 people left Nova Scotia and moved to Ontario recently, thousands more went the other way. Almost 8,000 people moved from Ontario to Nova Scotia. More than 2,000 people moved from Alberta to Nova Scotia. So almost, not quite, but almost as many people are leaving Alberta and moving to Nova Scotia as are going the other way. And that's kind of unusual. I mean, forever and a day. One of the stories of Nova Scotia workers was, I can't get a job in Nova Scotia. I'm going to Alberta. But now, according to this report, thousands of people left Alberta, chose to call Nova Scotia home instead. 2,000 people moving from Alberta to Nova Scotia, 8,000 people moving from Ontario to Nova Scotia, like 10,000 people in a year. It's like more than the population of my hometown. Makes me wonder, why do so many people want to move to Nova Scotia? What does Nova Scotia have going for it? Let's talk about this today. What's your moving story? I mean, if you're not originally from Alberta, and there are lots of people in Alberta who were born in Alberta, they were born in other parts of the country, but you live in Alberta now. What brought you to Alberta? And has it lived up to the billing? If you're not originally from Nova Scotia, why do you live in Nova Scotia now? Why did you choose the land of the Blue Nose and Alexander Keith's India Pale Ale? If you moved from Ontario to somewhere else, why did you do that? If you left Ontario, what's the story there? Because a lot of people are doing that. What's your moving story? We can explore this a little bit as we make our way through the day today. How was the place you moved to different from the place you came from? Like, what was different? What did you need to get used to? What adjustments did you need to make? What did you kind of learn along the way? And if you live in a part of Canada now that isn't where you're originally from, do you ever think of going back home? Canadians on the move. We want to know the stories behind those decisions to pack those bags and load the car, or pack a suitcase and head to the airport and start all over again somewhere else. What's your moving story? 1-833-668-2577. That's the call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make your call a priority. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Something on the lighter side today. We call it moving stories. Have you ever moved from one part of the country to another, one province to another? If so, why? For work? For love? to save money. Why did you move? Why did you move? Robert is in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. Hello, Robert.
Hey, Rob, how are you today?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I mean, fantastic topic. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What's your moving story, Robert? What's your moving story?
Well, pretty much. New girlfriend and I, when we're in our mid-40s, working in downtown Calgary in property management, said, let's go check out the East Coast back in 2017. And when we come out here, we were blown away, Rob, at just how far, I felt like I was going to see Archie Bunker walk out of the bar somewhere, because it felt like you just stepped back 30 years in time after being in Alberta. It was that shocking, Rob. Yeah. The second thing at that time to us was, real estate, Rob. You know this province. Every 10th driveway was for sale back then. Nothing was moving, and it was spectacular to us. And it was like, okay, let's buy a house for $250,000 with 300 acres on the lake and no neighbors, and leave that life and have a better quality of life. So that's what we did, Rob. And now I'm actually, went from property management, from Winnipeg to Vancouver, and now I'm wiping bums and helping seniors now and loving life.
Oh, so what are you in long-term care or something now? Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah,
really.
I'm doing
Wow.
I'm doing CCA work now. Can you believe it? Because I just found my true passion. Just love being around people, and certainly seniors, right? And and this,
So look, you've gone from
life.
you went from. Sorry, Robert, I hate to interrupt because I just have to ask you this. I have to ask you this. Okay, you moved from a city of more than 1 million people in Alberta to basically a village. Like, what's the population of Lunenburg? 2,500 people, maybe 2,500 people in Lunenburg.
Rob, it's more shocking. I'm just outside of there. I'm in a place called Sherwood, so we're just basically a sign on the road with 40 people in the area, right over, very rural.
So what was that like?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Oh my God, it was. You know what? I felt like living in the fast life in the city, Rob, for me was just like sucking the soul from your life every day. It's just everything felt so fast, and it was getting faster. And we just, again, stepping back in time. When you come to Nova Scotia, honest to God, that's why people are coming. It's one, the prices are absolutely stunning. I hate to be telling the world this in Canada, but it is. It's fantastic. If you like beaches and seafood and a relaxed way of living, that's what you get here in Nova Scotia. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you love outdoors, you got it. You love fishing, you got it, right?
Very good. Very good. Okay. I'm glad it's all worked out for you. You sound very happy, Robert. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you. All right. From Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, a guy who moved from Calgary to Lunenburg and apparently has no regrets whatsoever. Let's go to Gary. Hi, Gary, in Calgary today. Hi, Gary.
Good day, Rob.
Hi, Gary.
Let's go way back in time when the 70s were happening, and a lot of people moving from eastern Canada to Alberta. The oil sands were building up, all those projects. And myself, when was that? 77, decided to move from a small market radio station outside of Edmonton to go to a media market to central British Columbia, to Prince George. They paid more. Both stations were offering me employment, but the one station had television as well. So I got into television news there. So the money was really good, and that's how they attracted good employees up there. So British Columbia was quite a change in terms of how they did justice and, many other things. But it was a good step up. I met my wife there. My career moved forward. They had raises. This is before they got a union, too. We did leave and went to Calgary for a couple of years, but the recession hit, and we got out of there because I lost my job. I went back to Prince George. They welcomed me back. We carried on. The union had taken hold at that point when we went back. They put me supposedly in my top of the wage category, and eventually we moved to Edmonton, and now we're in Calgary, but we spent many years in Edmonton. But so a beautiful area of the province, but it was a good career move as well. And at that station in that city, there's a lot of people from Edmonton as well as BC, and some people came from down east.
So it sounds like you have a real fondness for Prince George. Would you ever want to go back there?
Nice place to visit, but no, because we have family down here, now we're settled down here in Calgary, and I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. No, I wouldn't. But but real estate was very affordable there at that time. And I noticed that on Facebook that Prince George is advertising to try and attract people to that part of the province. So I find that very interesting. They struggled for a number of years in terms of trying to attract more industry, but they are a good location in terms of where they are. If you want to go to the West Coast and say Prince Rupert, or if you're heading up north, a lot of tourism traffic that goes to Alaska through Prince George.
Yeah. But your primary motivation for moving was for work, right? For work opportunities.
It was work-related, yeah. It was a good career move back then. Yeah.
Good career move. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Very good. Be right back. What's your moving story? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
If you've ever moved from one part of the country to another, we want to know why you did that. What's your moving story? Doug is in Halifax up next. Hi, Doug.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah. What's your moving story, Doug?
I want to say sorry, Rob. Just wanted to let you know that we appreciate you here in Nova Scotia, number one, first and foremost.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Doug. Very kind.
So I left Nova Scotia. I worked for the federal government, and back in 2013, I was trying to get a job with the federal government. It's a process, and I had to leave Nova Scotia and go to Cold Lake, Alberta, because that's where the full-time job was.
Wow. What was that like,
and
moving
Rob,
to Cold Lake? What was that like?
It was a difficult decision because I had to leave my wife. I had to leave my kids. Cold Lake was yes, it was a lot different than Nova Scotia, that's for sure. The winters were a lot different than what I'm used to. The people were great, but other than that, I didn't want to go, but I had to go. I was fortunate enough in 2018 to get the job back in Nova Scotia that I got in Cold Lake, Alberta, and been back ever since.
Okay. When the adjustment, moving from, say, Nova Scotia out to Cold Lake, I mean, tell me a little bit more about that.
As I mentioned, it was a difficult decision. I took my truck and I rented a U-Haul and I drove out there by myself. It took me 5 days, and yeah, it was an experience.
Right. Sounds like
Rob, it wasn't.
Yeah, sounds like you really missed home.
I did. Again, I didn't want to leave, but I had to because that's where the full-time job with the federal government was. So I had no choice, and I came back as soon as I possibly could.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. A lot of people are moving to Nova Scotia. A lot of people from Ontario, 8,000 people last year moved from Ontario to Nova Scotia. 2,000 people moved from Alberta to Nova Scotia. The whole time I was growing up in Nova Scotia, it was always the traffic was the other way. What do you think people see in Nova Scotia? Like, what does Nova Scotia have going for it that so many people they want to move there?
Well, Rob, in my case, in terms of coming from Ontario, there are two families on my street that just came in the last couple of years. And what I believe is that they're selling their houses for $1 million in Ontario and coming down here and buying something they could never get in Ontario, which is a big house and lots of land. $1 million goes a long way down here as opposed to Ontario.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. People who have lived in Ontario, maybe they were originally from Nova Scotia. They lived in Ontario, bought a house in Ontario decades ago. Now the house is worth a lot of money. They sell the house. They could buy a house for cash and have lots of money left over in Nova Scotia. And
That's
maybe
right.
a different, maybe slower kind of lifestyle, like Robert was mentioning from Lunenburg. That's part of the attraction. Very, very good. Yeah. Thank you. I'm just going to interrupt right now because we do have some breaking news, and we're going to have more in our newscast. We were expecting some kind of update today from the government on the future of Canada Post. So the federal government is saying it's embarking on a modernization plan, and Canada Post is going to be allowed by the government, because it would need the blessing of the government, to end home delivery and convert all the 4 million addresses that still receive delivery, like right to the home, all to community mailboxes. That is a breaking news story right now, and we'll bring you more during our newscast, and then we'll bring you back, and we'll get more of your moving stories today. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Just let me throw one more topic out there, because it is breaking now, and it's quite a significant announcement from the Carney government, instructing Canada Post to end door-to-door delivery of mail across the country and shut down post offices in areas that were considered rural but are now suburban, in order to achieve cost savings for Canada Post. It says roughly 3/4 of Canadians already get their mail through community, apartment, and rural mailboxes. 1/4 still receive mail directly at the door, according to the federal government. It says converting the remaining 4 million addresses to community mailboxes will generate close to $400 million in annual savings for Canada Post. Government is also instructing Canada Post to adjust its letter mail delivery standards by moving non-urgent mail by ground instead of air, effectively meaning Canadians will experience longer wait times of up to a week to receive a letter in the mail. So that's a breaking story right now. So look, I'll just throw it out there. We have a great topic going here, but if you get mail delivered to your house and not a community mailbox, that could be coming to an end. What do you think of that? The union is not going to be happy about that. Of course, the CUPW, Canadian Union of Postal Workers. But to our topic of the day that we started with, and boy, I'd love to hear your moving stories today. We've heard some good ones already. You ever move from one part of the country to another? If so, why? Was it for work? Was it for love? Was it to save money? Just why did you move? Tell us your moving story. Krista in Nova Scotia up next. Hello, Krista.
Hello, how's it going today?
Very good, Krista. Thank you. What's your moving story?
Yeah, so you've mentioned it a few times, actually. I am in my 20s, and I moved from Ontario to Nova Scotia in 2022.
Okay, why?
So, well, I'm going to get a few people angry by saying this, but it's the truth. Housing is the answer in Ontario, at least central Ontario, where I'm from. Housing, especially at the time, was absolutely ridiculous. I am a young adult, so is my now husband. We just got married a month ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We could not afford to live in Ontario. Houses were going, I'm talking basic bungalow, very outdated, 1.3 million.
1.3 million. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We did the math, and it was going to take us about 13, 14 years to save a down payment. We both have very good paying jobs. We're both industrial mechanics. And we started looking at relocating, which is what most people my age have done from my hometown. I actually only know of 5 people that still live in my hometown out of probably 100.
Really?
Some went west.
Wow.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but we have had a huge influx in people coming to our country. I have nothing against it, but it does put a lot of strain on certain areas where they were no one to go, and that flows outwards. Those people need to go somewhere as well. So we could not find homes. We could not buy a home. Rent was double even what it is here today. So we were able to buy our home for $136,000. It's 43 acres, 3-bedroom farmhouse. It's in the middle of nowhere, but we like it that way. Ontario was getting pretty busy. Our mortgage is more than obtainable. We now have more savings than we could have ever possibly have had in Ontario, and we've been doing really well at it.
Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. Our first experiences moving here weren't necessarily the greatest. It was right around COVID, so there was a lot of hatred to people from Ontario. Everyone seemed to think we were rich. We are not rich.
Oh, really? Okay. Right. Okay.
We did not
Okay.
sell a house and make millions. We're not retired. We work very hard for what we have. I commute over an hour and a half each way to work, and I have no issues with that because it means I have affordable housing. I know it's not quite affordable anywhere in Canada and that people everywhere are struggling, but unfortunately, people need to go somewhere that they can afford, and we had enough savings to buy here, so that's why we came here.
Do you ever think about going back?
Yes, but not for location. I actually like the location. The scenery is beautiful. I like the amenities here, the lifestyle. It's honestly, once again, I'm going to piss off a lot of people. The people in at least my home area were very, very friendly. It was quite the community. My family is still back there, and that was a really hard thing for me to leave. I'm quite close with my family. I talk to my sister on the phone, FaceTime pretty well every day for hours. I've made a few friends around here, but it's not quite the same. I don't think we will ever go back, though, because it's just not worth the lifestyle change. We would be subjected to a $5,000 a month mortgage. That's not something we're willing to take on. Our retirement would look a lot different. Lifestyles would look a lot different. Yeah, we'd be closer to our families, but we wouldn't be able to take time off to actually visit with them. So how often are we really going to see them? So there was a lot of thoughts that went into it, but that's why we came to Nova Scotia. It's been pretty good. My husband was originally from here. He grew up here until he was about 8 and then moved to Ontario, and that's where we met. And that was his big pushing point for he wanted to come back to Nova Scotia. Because we did look at a couple different areas, but this one was the one that we kind of ended up landing on.
Excellent. Sounds like it's all worked out. Yeah. Sounds like you made a great decision. Yeah, Krista. All the best. Thank you. Thank you. So let's stop here and we'll take some more calls, more moving stories today on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're getting people's moving stories today, why they move from one province to another, one part of the country to another. At 1-833-668-2577 to Camrose, Alberta. Frank. Hi, Frank.
Hello. Hello, right here.
Yeah, very good, Frank. Hear you just fine. Got a moving story?
I moved from Manitoba in 1987. I have two other older brothers. One stayed in Manitoba, the other moved out to BC, and the one in BC has done very well, and I've done okay, and the brother in Manitoba hasn't done so well.
Okay. Why did you move?
I moved, it was because of work. They had worked for CP. They had me out in Thunder Bay running their shop out there, and I didn't really like it. So I'd been out to BC earlier on in 1972, 73. I was heading out there, but I stopped in Calgary because I had two sisters here. I ended up getting a job, and I'm still here.
Yeah. No regrets?
Yeah.
No regrets?
No, I wish I would have went on to BC. But Calgary, I've done okay. But since I've retired, I've lived back in Saskatchewan, and then wasn't happy with that. But I did move out to BC for a short time up around Hope, but it was too expensive to move on the island or in Vancouver. So I've eventually just moved back to Alberta here, and that's about it. But I did not too bad. But my brother in Vancouver did really well because of real estate.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Do you ever think about moving back to Manitoba? Do you ever think about moving back to Manitoba?
I've thought of it. In fact, I go back there because my mom is still alive. She's 98 years old, still on the farm. But I thought of it, but it's too many mosquitoes in those winters. The winters are a lot milder in Alberta here.
Okay.
And the mosquitoes, a lot more mosquitoes out there too. So
let me ask you this, Frank. Let me ask you this. Okay. This is the third year in a row that, it's just been booming for people wanting to move to Alberta. Okay. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people moving from all across the country. They want to move to Alberta.
Okay.
Why do you think that is? What does Alberta have going for it?
I think it's just the jobs. They're looking for
Just
work.
the jobs.
And, yeah, I think that's the big thing. And Alberta is a friendly place. It's I've always there's a lot to do here. You're close to the mountains. I was with the ski patrol for a number of years while I was here. All the hiking and the biking and all the recreational stuff.
Right.
It's really good that way too, which is really enjoyable. And I lived in Calgary most of the time, but now I've moved up just outside of Camrose, and it's. I want to get back to a small town. It's a lot friendlier. Since I moved here, I haven't had one finger salute or yelled at while I'm driving.
Okay.
And it takes a bit to get used to that. It's kind of shocking in a way.
Isn't that funny?
People are so friendly out in this small town, so which is
I'm
good,
glad it's all worked out for you, Frank. Thank you for your call. To Bridgewater, Rory in Bridgewater. Hi, Rory.
Hi. Another
Hi,
West Coast BC experience. Born and raised in BC. My wife was born and raised in BC. We came out to do an Atlantic holiday in 2019, and we liked it, and we went back. And a couple of weeks later, we thought, I've had enough of the West Coast, and we came back here 5 years ago, and we just love it.
What do you love about it? You're talking about Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, right?
Yeah, we're just outside of Bridgewater.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
much slower pace.
Okay.
The houses are like a third of the price. The car insurance is a third of the price. Winters are a little bit harsher, but we just like the more laid-back rural feeling. Like around here, they pretty much close up the sidewalks at 8 o'clock at night, and a lot of stuff that would be open 7 days a week in BC is closed on Saturday and Sunday. But just, and like the other guy said, I used to work in downtown Vancouver, and I'd hear people honking their horn and giving each other the finger several times a day. I probably haven't heard as much in the 5 years we've been here as I'd hear on my normal daily commute.
Right. What about all the other things, though, that you can get in a big city? Like the big city has everything. Bridgewater, Bridgewater's like less than 10,000 people in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. Do you ever feel like you're missing out on anything?
Well, we're missing out on some stuff like the big concerts we'd go to see in Vancouver, and we don't have a movie theater now. It shut down a couple of years ago, but I mean, there's restaurants, there's a lot of stuff here. We're an hour out of Halifax, so we don't go to the city that much, but Halifax is an hour away. It's got almost everything Vancouver has.
Oh yeah, Halifax is booming as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people are moving to Nova Scotia. What do you think the attraction is?
Well, a lot of it's the house prices is a big deal.
The
like
housing.
Our house in BC was paid off. We could have stayed there. But,
right.
We sold it, bought something way nicer on acreage here for less than half the price. So then you bank the rest away for retirement.
Sure.
And I don't know, it's an adjustment, but I told my wife when we moved we better like it because we probably couldn't afford to go back in a couple of years, and but no regrets.
And she likes it?
Oh yeah. She
Yeah?
was just back in BC for 3 weeks, and she was glad to come home.
Very good. Great story.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, very common that we're hearing today. People want to move to Nova Scotia. The housing situation in Nova Scotia, especially by the sounds of a small town or rural Nova Scotia. And the quieter, calmer lifestyle that you just don't get in, say, big city BC or big city Ontario. What's your moving story? We'll be right back. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What's your moving story? If you've moved from one part of the country to another part of the country, what's behind that story? We want to know that story today. Andrew in Calgary. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, good afternoon. Almost here.
Yeah.
Rob, good to hear from you again, and I haven't talked to you in a while. So, Alberta offers, because Calgary is just been growing for last 20 years? It's different because the roads are wider. You can actually park on the side of the road without another car crashing into you. That's what I like about it. And the sun. The sun is absolutely amazing here. Do I miss the rain? Yes. But
Okay.
the sun here.
Where
even
are
in the
you
winter
from
time, when it's
originally,
-30,
Andrew? Andrew, where are you from? Outside Kitchener. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and you know what I've seen lately is that a lot of the older people are moving here because their kids moved away a long time ago, so they can't live on their own anymore. So they're selling houses big there and moving here with their kids and just pocketing the money. I don't know if you have the data on what the age of people moving around is.
No, there's no age data here. I wish there was. Especially when it comes, to people moving to Alberta. Is it more of a young people story? Looking for work.
Everybody's coming here. Everybody. 5 years ago, I would be able to drive on Stony and barely see cars, and now it's every day is just packed, and that means a lot of people moved here.
Why did you pack up and leave?
Family. For one family, for another family, and I miss my family.
Yeah. You never think of going back? Would you ever go back to Ontario?
I think it's too late now. 10 years later, it's too late.
What do you mean it's too late? Here, why is it too late?
The pricing.
Ontario the pricing. Okay.
Yeah, Ontario priced everybody out of there, and I think people have to move. That's the thing. People have to move where they can raise a family, buy a house, and live a good life. And if you can't do that,
get a job, right? Yeah, get a good job.
And here they're building schools like never before. The amount of kids at schools is unbelievable, and they can't keep up with the building schools. And that's a sad part because there's 40 kids to a classroom. Good luck.
Yeah, with growth comes problems, and that was a big part of the negotiations between the government and the teachers in that province. Okay, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, it seems like the worst is over for that. But why don't we stop here, and that'll be it for hour number 1 for moving stories. But great stories and great points everyone's making. Full hour just ahead, though. Yeah, it's something on the lighter side today, moving stories. Have you ever moved from one part of the country to another, and why? For work, for love, to save money. Why did you move? Any regrets? Do you miss where you're from originally? You ever think about going back? Give us your moving story. Why'd you pack it all up and start a new adventure in life? 1-833-668-2577. The latest breaking news is coming up next, including big news today on Canada Post that we'll tell you about. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back
on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Yeah, something on the lighter side today. We call it moving stories, asking if you've ever moved from one part of the country to another, one province to another. And if so, why? We want to know the story behind that. Did you move for work? Did you move for money? Did you move for love? Just why did you move? Gosh, Nova Scotia is a popular destination for people moving from one province to another. Why do you think that is? What's going on there? What do people see in Nova Scotia? What does Nova Scotia have going for it? I wonder if there's any difference between what people think of Nova Scotia and what Nova Scotia is actually like. For example, if you heard from someone who said, I'm thinking about moving to Nova Scotia, what would you tell them about that decision? What would be your advice to someone who is thinking about saying, moving from Ontario to Nova Scotia or moving from Alberta to Nova Scotia? What do you think they need to know? Because, a lot of people, thousands and thousands and thousands of people in other parts of the country, they're packing it up. And they're heading east as well as west. What's going on there? 1-833-668-2577. And for many years now, I think this is the third year in a row that Alberta has led in what the government calls net migration, interprovincial migration. Why does everybody want to move to Alberta? I was looking at a number today. The percentage of Alberta's population born in another province. Now, it's hard to nail down a number. I asked AI. And the number that the AI tool spit out was about 17% of Alberta's population. It's AI. I don't know how reliable that figure is. Governments track people moving to Canada from other countries a lot better than they track people moving between provinces. But, say if it's 17% of Alberta's population, which is about 5 million people now, that's about 850,000 people. Born in another province, thought they'd be better off in Alberta. Again, don't know how accurate that figure is. But I personally know a lot of people, young men mostly, who move from Atlantic Canada to northern Alberta. Not so much Calgary, but certainly northern Alberta. Because of the great jobs in the oil sands. Lots of people in Atlantic Canada did that, continue to do that. I've had members of my own family who have done it. Move from Nova Scotia, settled down in Alberta. I have family members out there right now working in Alberta. And I've known lots of people over the years who did the rotation. Fly in, fly out, 14 days on, 7 days off. Good money, tough way to make a living, very hard on families. My uncle did that for many years. Fly in, fly out. Get home, see the kids, see the wife, get caught up on family life, do some chores, work around the house, and before you know it, you're back on an airplane for another couple of weeks. And I would see those guys on the airplane when I would fly home to Cape Breton. You see it on their faces. Rugged faces. But for them, the money was just unlike anything they could make in small town Nova Scotia. Not an easy life, for sure. Not an easy life. But, to our listeners in Alberta today, usually in this hour of the program, we get a lot of calls from our listeners in Alberta. If you're not originally from there, why Alberta? What did Alberta offer? And to our listeners in Alberta today, what does Alberta still offer that makes it such a popular destination for not just for people all over the world, but certainly people from all across Canada? Number one province for people moving from other provinces remains Alberta. Is it just the jobs? Is it just the money? Is it about housing costs? Is it the culture? Give me your honest opinion. 1-833-668-2577. And tell us your moving story. I'd love to hear it today. Let's go to Brian is in Lethbridge today. Hi, Brian.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, Brian. What's your moving story there, Brian?
Yeah, well, actually, it's kind of funny. I lived in Alberta my whole life, and we did pack up and move to Nova Scotia back in 2018. My wife's family lived out there. And honestly, from the change, even from like just the taxes, like the 5% to the 15%, the minimum wage at the time when I was there was $12. And I found it really expensive. Even just heating, like the heating oil back then, it was about $1 a liter. Now I think now it's about $2 a liter for heating oil versus what we had here was natural gas. And the difference is like it would cost us almost $3,000 to heat our house one winter out there. It was an older house that we purchased out there, and it was a 2-story. And it was just I found everything else, food, just everything else out there was a lot more expensive than Alberta.
Okay.
We were in a small little town called Stellarton, kind of
Stellarton.
New Glasgow area.
Yeah, I know where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, about 45 minutes kind of east of Truro. And like one of your previous callers said, the lady that actually moved out there to Ontario, when I moved out there, a lot of people were asking, well, why are you out here? And I'm like, oh, my wife's family's here. And they're like, well, why are you out here? Like, it did take a while. It did take a while for people to come around because, a lot of people at the time during COVID were moving out there. And I did find that like a place I worked at too, though. Some people didn't really care for the fact that you were from Alberta. And, I thought it was kind of odd because like being in Alberta, every job I worked with a lot of people actually came from the Philippines. And, we were always fine with the workers that came in and we never had issues. We never questioned it, So I found it I found it a little hard. I like Nova Scotia. I like the pace versus Alberta. But honestly, we were there about 2 years. We sold our house. We came back.
Oh, really? Wow.
We came back. Yeah. And actually, you know what's funny is my wife's family was
What
there.
did your wife think of that? What did your wife think of that?
My wife hated it. I liked it. I was getting used to it. My wife hated the weather. She didn't like the weather at all. And wet. It's a wet cold out there. Alberta's more of a dry cold.
Yeah.
You know, we do get colder here, but that wet cold, their -10 feels like our -20. And she really, really did not like the weather. She didn't like it out there. So she, 6 months before we left, she's like, I'm going, and either I'm going and you're coming with me, or you're staying here. So that's
really?
kind of what happened.
Okay.
We tried to pursue
Isn't that
this,
interesting?
and then
Isn't that interesting?
We moved back. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, some people think the grass is always greener on the other side, and sometimes it is. And in my case, I came back to Alberta, and I'm making a lot more money out here. And I just find it still cheaper, a little bit cheaper to live out here that way versus Nova Scotia.
Well, you moved and then moved again. All right. Great one. Thank you, Brian. Good to hear from you. Bye-bye. That's hour number 2. Let's get it going here. Every single phone line is available. 1-833-668-2577. Want to hear your story today on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What's your moving story? If you move from one part of the country to the other, why'd you do that? What was your motivation? James in Calgary. Hello, James. Hi, James. Hi,
Hello?
James. Yeah, hi, James. I got you.
Right on. I originally came out for a summer at Jasper Park Lodge when I was still in high school. Went home, did my grade 13, and came straight back out.
And where was home, James? Where was home? Where was home, James?
Oh, Windsor, Ontario.
Windsor, Ontario. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So you can imagine the difference in the air quality alone.
I bet. Yeah. What year was that, James? Do you recall?
Yeah, 89.
1989. It's a heck of a year. I graduated from high school. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So then I continued to work in Jasper for about 4 years. Then I did 6 in Banff, and I went home for a horrible 4 years. And when I came back out, I decided the rent and living situations in Banff were probably not to my liking, and landed myself in Calgary.
Right. And how's that been?
It's been great. I've never had any interest in the oil patch. I'm a construction site supervisor here. And, yeah, I mean, there's nothing like this place. Rockies are
What do you
right
mean by
there.
that? What do you mean by that?
Well, I've also lived on Vancouver Island, and it's beautiful, but its pace is kind of weird. There's a lot going on here. I mean, there's a lot to do, and it's beautiful. So I'm staying.
Well, you've been there for a while now, I guess. So, you've put down some roots. Let's say someone's thinking right now, I'm thinking about moving to Alberta. What would you say to them?
Well, I'd warn them about Calgary traffic. That's for sure. I mean,
Okay.
40,000 new Calgarians a year.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people come here expecting those zipper interchanges on major roadways like that. They're kind of a little disconcerting your first few goes.
Okay.
That's what I would warn them about, but I would definitely tell them to come.
Yeah.
Everything's still growing, so.
Everything's still growing. Still lots of opportunity?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I would think so. If you want a job, you've got a job. I don't see that much hardship going around.
Okay. Very good, James. Glad it's worked out for you. Doesn't sound like you have any regrets. You don't have any regrets, do you?
Everybody's got a few, but
yeah.
Windsor's a good place to be from. It means you're not there anymore.
Okay. That's terrible. Okay. All right. No love for Windsor, Ontario. Okay. All right, James. Thank you. Yeah, James, much happier in Calgary. And by the sounds of it, Jasper, Banff, than he ever was in Windsor, Ontario. We'll stop here, get more moving stories. We're making our way through hour number 2 here of Talkback. We'll go to Cambridge next and hear from Dan. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Why did you move from one part of the country to the other? What's your moving story? In Cambridge, Ontario, Dan, up next. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Rob, how are you?
Very good, Dan. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks.
That's good.
I was born. Thanks. I was born in Toronto, '66.
Okay.
Spent 38 years there. Bought a house in Barrie with a woman I met, and we had a young family. Anyway, after a couple of years in Barrie, Ontario, just everything just seemed to be moving too fast. Everything was too expensive. Anyway, so in 2005, we moved to Prince Edward Island. She's originally from there, so yeah.
Okay.
And
anyway, what'd you think of that? What did you think of that? That's where my wife's family is from. What did you think of that?
It took me about a year to gear down, but I did eventually come to love it. But yeah, when I left, everybody was saying, "You're going the wrong way," and I was saying, "No, I'm not." No, I'm not.
Wow.
But, anyways, I spent 18 years there, and I'm now back in Cambridge, and I have family here. My marriage fell apart in PEI, so anyway, that's the reason I came back. But since I come back, I don't have a whole lot of options as far as I'm out of the housing market for sure.
Okay.
I came back.
While you were away, Cambridge just became too expensive?
No, sorry. Barrie, when we were living in Barrie, we bought a house. I think we were a little over our heads. We wanted to get into the housing market. Barrie was the only option at that point. But it started. It just got to be too much financially. Yeah. So we went to PEI. It was great. I was there for 18 years and loved it for the most part. But yeah, I just when things changed and I had to kind of start over, I just thought it'd be, nice to be near family and stuff. But I'm kind of regretting it, Rob.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's just I don't know.
Well,
could have been I slowed down so much in PEI. It's a beautiful place to live. I don't regret raising my family there. It was a great move for us and for the kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm starting to regret coming back. I mean, I came back because, the employment wasn't, I worked in fish plants, I worked in lobster plants, I worked at Cavendish farms. I did all the jobs you could do. And I thought it would be a better idea to come back here. I'd have more options. And that was the case. But yeah, I'm living with my sister. I just can't live on my own. There's no way, Rob. Sorry.
Yeah. That sounds like the Ontario story. That sounds like the Ontario story. I mean, people are lots and lots of people are leaving Ontario, and I'm just wondering. It's one of the questions that I've been asking today. Is that a cost of living thing? Why are so many people leaving Ontario? You know, like we heard from a young woman just got married, moved to rural Nova Scotia in 2022, got married. The houses where she was living in Ontario were $1.3 million. She bought a house in Nova Scotia for $136,000.
I paid $65,000 for our bungalow that we bought. Like, it's crazy.
Right.
That was in 2005, mind you. But
yeah.
anyway, thanks for letting me vent. And it's crazy here, Rob.
Yeah, and it's a cost of living thing. That's what your big regret is. Okay, all right, Dan. Thank you for your honesty as well. Yeah, it's never easy. We'll be right back with more of your calls. If you're on hold, just hang on. We'll get right to you right after the latest breaking news on a busy one today in the news business. Big Canada Post news if you haven't heard it yet. Wait till you hear that one. Coming up. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're gathering moving stories today, wondering why people have moved from one part of the country to another, to Lethbridge now. Lindsay in Lethbridge. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi there. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Yeah, my pleasure. What's your moving story, Lindsay?
Well, I've lived here my whole life, and I've been a home care nurse here in Alberta for 21 years. And I want to tell you about two programs in healthcare that have been my entire career. So they've been around a long time that may be a draw for a lot of our seniors and residents to Alberta. The first I want to talk about is every Alberta resident, no matter age or income, qualifies for a program called Alberta Aids to Daily Living, or AADL. And what that offers our residents here is 75% of the cost of like incontinent pads, catheters, wound care products, ostomies, equipment like walkers and wheelchairs and commodes and safety things in the home. And if you're low income, you get 100% coverage through the government on these products. And I know a lot of other provinces don't have this wonderful program. Also, the second program I want to talk about is Alberta Health Services, or AHS, will pay 100% of the cost of personal care, so such as bathing, dressing, respite hours if you're looking after an Alzheimer's person at home. Wow. You know, Southern Alberta is a warm, we're the banana belt of Alberta. We're very warm down here. We get a lot of seniors. We have so many seniors and senior housing. And also the Alberta government helps subsidize assisted living. So I have a family in Saskatchewan, and the cost of their living in Saskatchewan in assisted living is double what we pay here in Alberta, because the Alberta government subsidizes still that personal care, bathing, dressing within the assisted living, which makes the rent quite a bit less.
Wow. So I wonder, just because of those programs, I mean, the part of Alberta that you're, I mean, is it kind of becoming like, I don't know, Florida of the North? Like, are a lot of seniors moving there from other parts of the country?
Yeah, we have a lot of seniors. There's just so many independent senior living condos and are built here in Lethbridge. And yeah, but it is such a warm place, and we have all these great resources. But these programs I'm talking about are for all Alberta residents. Right. Throughout the province. But and it doesn't matter your age, and if you're low income, it's even more coverage on those products. So it just makes Alberta, you know, more desirable to move if you're drowning in healthcare costs in other provinces.
I see. Yeah.
I just wanted to share those.
Well, thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, very informative. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. From Lethbridge to Calgary, Nancy. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Nancy. Nice to talk to you. Nice to talk to you.
Good subject for me. Yeah.
And why is that?
I'm born and raised in Calgary, and I moved to the Yukon Territory in '89, and I planned on staying for a couple years and stayed for 20. Married a man from Prince Edward Island, and so we moved to Prince Edward Island in 2008. And I stayed there for about 7 years. Wow. And you ask how Prince Edward Island is. It's. They always say the people are so friendly. They are, but they're more friendly to tourists than they are when you move there, because when you move there, you're always from away, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's their term. You're from away, and they are friendly. It's just hard to dig into the friend group and everything because it seems more generational there, and nobody moves around much. And from
Can
PEI,
I just tell you a story just on that point? Can I just tell? I'll share a personal story. Okay.
Sure.
So my wife travels to Prince Edward Island quite frequently to visit her father, and from time to time she'll drive down in her car, and she has a Quebec license plate on her car. So she's stopped at a red light, and she's a little slow off the mark. And this person behind her just like wails on the horn to get her moving. And they have in Charlottetown, as they do in a lot of other big cities now, they've embraced the roundabout, like Charlottetown is like roundabout city now. And I guess, my wife may have entered the roundabout a little too early or a little too late and almost kind of cut this other driver off. And this other driver like followed my wife and was like flipping the bird and everything. And my wife asked me, and she's from Prince Edward Island. And she asked me, I wonder if that's because I have a Quebec license plate. Would they do that to me? Would they treat me like that if my plate was a Prince Edward Island plate? You might be onto something there, I think, Nancy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the reason, but it's funny how often people said to me, "Oh, they're so friendly," and it was tough to get into like a friend group or get to know people there. I'm lucky that I'm like a community theater actress, so I just went looking for theaters to play in, and then met a group there.
Now the Yukon, you moved to the Yukon. What were you doing in the Yukon for 20 years?
I finished my rehab diploma here in Calgary, and just a friend of mine heard about a job up there. I was still 27, I think. And so I went up and applied and got it. And I thought, well, what the hell? Let's go give it a try for a couple years. And ended up marrying my husband and having a child and staying for like 20. I thought I would stay there forever. It was like, it's the only place to be. It's just so beautiful. But then a lot.
But what was it like, though? Like, what was it like? I've never been to Yukon. Curtis is from there. Our producer. What was it like there?
They kind of say there's the term the magic and the mystery, right? It's very cultural. It's very artistic. It draws a lot of unique people. And again, I got into community theater there for 10 years. I was acting and it's funny, again, when I first moved there, it took almost a year or 2 years. They were seen so standoffish, but once you're there, like my daughter used to say, Jesus, we can't go anywhere without you talking to 10 people. And I discovered I liked the small towns, right? I'm from Calgary. It was a big city. And I thought I just liked the smaller places. So there, and then PEI. And then I moved outside St. John in New Brunswick for 4 years. And then in 2019, it was time to come back to Calgary. My mom was aging, and I thought, let's come back. The big city didn't call me, but if I was going to live in a big city, it would be Calgary. Yeah.
Okay.
And
you're like a Stompin' Tom song. You could write a Stompin' Tom song. You've been
there. You go. I have
here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Look, we got to run. We got to run, Nancy. That's a great story, though. Thank you. Love your travels. Be right back. Moving stories on Talkback today on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
To Blair in Calgary today. Get a moving story from Blair. Hi, Blair.
Hey, how are you? No, back
good.
in 2004, me and my wife, we were split up. She was American. She went down to Rhode Island to be with her family. We had two young kids that were 14 and 11 at the time. And then through a little bit of talking and arrangement, by God's grace, we got back together, and we decided to move out to Calgary to have a very fresh, brand new start from New Brunswick. Moncton, New Brunswick, family's all still there, but moved out to Calgary. And first time I flew, I came out about 6 weeks before them, so I could get a job and get all that set up and places to flew into Toronto and figuring I was halfway there. Then I look at the flights and say 4.5-hour flight to Calgary. I says, it's amazing to me how little we know on the East Coast about the West Coast. So I've been out here now for over 20 years. I lived in Calgary for 17 of them. During COVID, my wife lost her job with WestJet. We had a big house in Calgary. We sold that and we moved to High River. So I brought my kids out here that were 14 and 11 at the time. 20 years later, my daughter got married 13 years ago. I got 4 grandchildren now. My son married his longtime partner. He's a teacher, and my son just wrote his medical license to be an oncologist, and he gets his first contract in January of this coming year. So I will say, I absolutely love this province and everything. I can even get emotional because of it, because I just love it out here. It's done wonders for my family. Daniel Smith, to me, is the best premier in Canada by leaps and bounds. But what's a little bit disappointing with me is I see the country that, Rob, I don't know if you see this, but I believe we're very different from Manitoba East to Manitoba West. It's different out here, and it's hard to explain that. But every view is it's just different.
Well, let me ask you this. Just on that point. You're originally from Moncton, New Brunswick. You said, right?
Yes,
originally from Moncton, New Brunswick.
Yes.
Great city, by the way. I have lots of family in Moncton, New Brunswick. Great city.
I got cousins,
like totally underrated. Like a totally underrated city. But what would you say is the difference, say, between living in Moncton and living in Calgary? Like what the pace of life, the energy, vibe? Is there something like what is it?
Yeah, I would say definitely the pace of life is faster out here, without question. Like there's more opportunity out here. The wages are better out here.
Right.
I was out here for 3 years, and I was paying more income tax than I made the whole year working at another job.
Wow.
I was paying that in income tax. So, I'm out here, I drive truck out here. I've been out here for over 20 years. If you got a Class 1 license in Alberta, and it's a clean Class 1 license, the sky's the limit. I could look at 20 job ads tomorrow, and I could get 20 calls tomorrow, say, when are you coming? When are you coming? When are you coming? And I moved out here when this city was 840,000 people, Rob. It's approaching 1.5 million. They're going to build 7,000 more homes this year. The construction is insane. We're so close now to hitting Chestermere, which is to our east. We're almost hitting Airdrie, which is to the north, and Okotoks to the south. Like the leaps and bounds that I've seen this city and the prosperity and how big I've seen it grow. It's like I don't live in Calgary, so I don't take day drives to Calgary anymore. I love High River. It's quiet. I live on a road now when I'm home that 5 of them are retired. Just the way I like it. I'm 59 years old next month. I have no intentions on moving back, even though my mom and dad are starting to get up there a little bit. But my grandkids are out here. My kids are out here. My son starts his medical career out here. This is home now, but Moncton was where my roots are, where all my cousins are. It's hard for people to understand it, but I feel very blessed to live in this province, and it's been nothing but a positive experience for me.
Well, very good. I'm glad it's all worked out. Thank you so much. Such a great story. Be right back on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Really loving everybody's moving stories today. Let's take another one here. Dawn is up next. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Don. Can you hear me?
Hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine, Don. What's your story, Don?
Okay. Born in Winterpeg and moved to Calgary when I was 7 with my family because my dad was transferred here. Fast forward to when I was 19, I joined the RCMP. Went to Regina for 6 months. Regina, ugh. Got posted to British Columbia for the rest of my service. Prince George, great place. Loved it.
Really?
Got transferred to Nanaimo on Vancouver Island. The island was simply fantastic except for the ferry.
Okay.
I retired in Vancouver, and I was 45 years old, and I couldn't find anything in Vancouver to do. So guess what? I came back to Calgary in 1998, and the jobs here were so plentiful, I could find work like you wouldn't believe here. And it was just great to be back in Calgary. I hope a lot more people come, although it's getting pretty crowded now.
Right.
But hey, what can I say? I like Calgary. I'm a lot older now. I'll tell you a funny thing. The reason why I moved back to Calgary, it's kind of a goofy thing. I moved back here for one of the things for the Calgary Stampeders football team.
Oh yeah, okay.
I've been a fan for 70 years. You're in Montreal, aren't you?
No, I'm just north of Ottawa, sir. About an hour north of downtown Ottawa.
I'm sorry. I thought you were in Montreal because I know.
No, I'm in Quebec, but I'm on the Quebec side, just north of Ottawa. Yeah.
Okay. But anyways, moving back to Calgary, I think was good, and that's one of the reasons. And never mind the weather. Hey, I'm used to the winter weather. People say, "Oh, I can't stand the weather here." The weather's not that bad, but Calgary's a good city. We got some problems that I won't go into.
Well, all big cities do. Yeah, all big cities do. All big cities do.
All big cities do.
Yeah. Anyway. Very good. And you mentioned Montreal. You were probably going to reference it's Stampeders and Alouettes tomorrow night. Maybe, who knows? Maybe that's a Grey Cup preview. Who knows? But it's looking like Hamilton is coming out of the East anyway. All right. I want to fit in one more call. Thank you, Don. Second person to mention Prince George and how they really liked Prince George. How about Taylor? Is Taylor still there? Hi, Taylor.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good, Taylor. Not a lot of time. Just give me a quick synopsis of the moving story.
Yeah, so originally from Montreal.
Okay.
Was there for like 25 years, working 6 days a week, and my parents moved out to Calgary, and every time we spoke, they loved it out here, so I moved out to Calgary. I love the weather out here over the 6 feet of snow that Montreal gets every couple of weeks in the winter. And yeah, I've been in Calgary for 15 years, and I have 2 kids of my own right now.
Okay.
And yeah, can't say I couldn't. If anyone asked me where I want to be, Calgary is the best place.
You could never see yourself going back.
Just to visit, but never to live. Yeah, no. I felt like an outsider out there, even being from there. Yeah, I couldn't see it.
Okay. Well, very well done in a minute or less, Taylor. I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun today. Friday free-for-all Talkback tomorrow. We're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow. Hope you'll join us then. The latest breaking news coming up next on News Radio.